Hey everybody, this is Dr. Joe Borio, this week's Health Kick, and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. Certainly happy Dad's Day to all the to-be dads out there, all the fathers that are expecting or planning on having children someday, great-grandfathers, grandfathers, and so forth. This goes out to you. I thought today, rather than talk about a specific health topic, I thought I'd talk about the health within our heart, our mind, and our soul, and something to share with you. It's an email that actually my brother-in-law has been sending me for many years, and I keep it on my desktop on my computer, and I read it over many times throughout the year, and I thought we would all benefit from listening to it today. So I wanted to share that with you, along with some of my own experiences as being a dad. So it's a top 10 list. It's certainly kind of like a David Letterman top 10. So I'm going to read through it, and I wrote it down just so I certainly wouldn't forget any specific topics. Number one is going to be pack the car more often. Some of the best memories I have, I'm almost 50 now, so when I think back, some of these great memories I had with my parents. We used to go to Disney World. We went down to the campgrounds. A few times we went to Virginia, went to the Adirondacks. My dad ran a restaurant, an old Italian guy, and my mom kind of grew up in that Leave It to Beaver family type dynamic. So, we took a week off. My dad would take a week off every year, and it was something we really cherished. And we had great times, great memories. I don't remember bad things that happened, even some of the events that happened that were unplanned. We lost our luggage once, or we had a really bad car accident. We had damage to one of the tires on one of our trips. When I think back of that, and when we talk about that as a family, we always laugh. I think it was real stressful for my parents, but it was something that we always laugh about. And I think when we're fathers now, and we get so caught up in the moment, I know I've done that in my practice, certainly, in certain businesses that I run, you're like, oh my God, I got to do it today, I got to do it today. And when you realize that, the world still goes on without you, and boy, if you could take that extra week or two and a year and spend it with your family and your kids, boy, you're really leaving them with better memories, a greater bond, something to look back on, experiences that you can cherish with your children forever. So pack the car less often was number one. Two, spin things less and listen. Sometimes, my two boys, I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they come home and they tell you a story, or they tell you something, and certainly I know with my dad growing up as a kid, I would do the same thing, and often, rather than maybe listening more, we would immediately try to fix it. Guys tend to be fixers, so we immediately try to remedy the situation, where sometimes I think to be a really good father, I think you need to be a good listener, and I think sometimes maybe you don't need to fix something. Maybe your child just needs to express something or express an experience. So I think if we certainly spin things less and just listen more, I think we'll really be giving a gift to our children. I've certainly made that mistake, and I certainly try to stay on top of that when my children come home every day. Raise our voices less. Certainly we want to. My dad would always say, "Hey, I'm not your friend. I'm your father," and I agree with that 100%. And I think extending that, I think being a good dad doesn't mean to dominate them, doesn't mean to control them, but it means, again, going back to that listening and to maybe ask them questions so that they can come up with their better answers of their own morality or ethics. I think most of our morality or ethics are already inborn, they're innate in us. We already know what right or wrong is for the most part. So I think if you can kind of lead them with questions as to why they did what they did, and ask them, do they understand why it's wrong, rather than immediately, knock it off. I think you're teaching your children to reason and to use logic, and not to use emotion or anger or frustration to handle the problems in their life. So raise your voice less. Put up the hoop sooner. So many times I'm guilty of this as a dad, and I know a lot of my buddies, when we talk, you talk about a basketball hoop, but anything, going to buy golf clubs, or going to get ice cream, or going to fix the fishing reel. My son went fishing this morning, so I went yesterday and bought him a fishing reel and so forth. But really, one of the statements I always use as a coach for clients is TNT, today, not tomorrow. I think we need to realize that, boy, your kids are experiencing life, and their experiences in their life are so different than you think it is. And if you were to do that sooner, you know, it changes their life. It's a place. I have a basketball hoop here, so you know, it's just I see the kids over there play basketball. I put some baseball bases in the backyard. You know, nailed them into the ground, and just something simple or stupid. But boy, the hours of enjoyment they have just doing those things, and if you can go out there and hit the ball around with them and enjoy with them, those are the things they'll remember. They're not going to remember the new bicycle necessarily, but they'll remember the time you spent with them certainly a lot more. Hung around more at bedtime. You know, that's one thing I want to tell you that I made that mistake again too, is you know, wanting to be around your kids right in bedtime, and I do that so much more now, and I'm so much better at that. Is, you know, that last 15 minutes of the day where you can do so many of these other things. You don't have to spin things as often. You don't raise your voice. You can make plans for the day after, see what their life is like, where they're headed. Talk about their day. Talk about, laugh and enjoy, and really kind of put together that cliff note, that summation of the day, or what you want to do the next day or in a couple of weeks or whatever. And I'll tell you that sometimes for me that's the best time I could spend with my kids, and just give them that last minute hug and a kiss and tell them I love them, and spend an extra time with them is great. You know, one of the lines they use in number 6 is bought more pets, or bought the hamster sooner. But what they were really referring to is remembrance. So many of the things that we do, you know, when you think back, everyone, if you had a pet, you know, you remember your dog Peanuts, or you remember your dog Snoopy, or you remember your dog, you know, Rocky. We have 2 St. Bernards, Rocky and Bella, and you know, my kids, that's what they'll remember. You know, so not just a pet, but gear, fishing gear, or like I said, a bicycle, or a scooter, or a skateboarder. Those little things that you can shape memories around, things that you can shape remembrance around, I think are really important, and something that you can share with them at the same time. I still remember my parents when I had my red bicycle, and they took my training wheels off, and when they bought me that bike, you know, for my birthday, and it was something that still sticks with me. I still remember that. Starting your day, investing with your children 5 minutes. You know, starting that day for 5 minutes. We get so ruffled about sometimes yelling or getting frustrated because we're trying to get ready for school or get ready for an event. We'll maybe get up a few minutes earlier, and that way you can maybe still need to do some of that, but you can also spend those 5 minutes with your children and talk about the day, and listen to what their expectations are of the day, and listen to them. They're just little gems in their minds, and young adults that you're shaping to be significant contributors of community, and significant contributors of our future, and people that are really going to own families, and if you will, our own communities, or own our country. And by spending those little 5 minutes, it's an investment. It's like putting a little bit in a stock fund every day. I think you grow from it. I mean, some of these things we talk about giving for our children, but sometimes you can be a little selfish, because by doing those extra few minutes every day with your kids, you can almost get selfish, but it actually makes your day better. You feel better, and your day's better when you go to work and spend time with other people, and you can certainly appreciate other children more. So be patient with fantasy. You know, so often our kids will talk about being astronauts or firemen, or catching a huge fish, going fishing, which Vito was talking about last night before I went out, or about a bicycle, or going, oh my gosh, we went to Universal Studios this year, and my God, every night for 15 minutes, we would go on the internet, we go on our iPads, and we would look at Universal Studios and talk about the rides, and talk about the fun things they wanted to do. But they would have these fantasies about what they want to be when they grow up, or what they wanted to do next year, or how the next grade was going to be, or the first kiss, or what have you, and just to sit back and listen to them. There's no, we haven't ruined them yet, you know, at that age. They're not so much thinking in a box. Anything's possible, and it's great to listen to them express the world through their eyes, through their perspective. And like I said, it's selfish too, because you start to sense the magic of day to day. We get so stuck in the day to day mundane of life, and you get to hear it through their eyes, and all of a sudden life becomes fun. You know, B.J. Palmer, one of my favorite authors in chiropractic, talks about that. don't take yourself so damn seriously. And I think as adults we start to take ourselves so seriously, or take moments of time so seriously. And when you listen to kids, you realize, you know, it's easy not to take it so seriously. So, which I love. Hug and kiss your kids more. I'll tell you, I grew up in an Italian family, so fortunately for me, it wasn't a challenge. You know, my mom and dad still give me a kiss and a hug, and hold my hand, or put their hand on my shoulder, or you know, an embrace frequently. And I definitely kiss and hug my kids. I can't wait to touch them all the time. And I'll tell you that really, we're, as human beings, we really we work well with hugs and kisses. I mean, if you go up to somebody and you give them a hug, it changes their entire physiology. It shows to lower cancer risk. It shows to lower heart attacks if you get 7 hugs a day. So imagine if you do that to your children. One great way to make your kids healthier is to hug them and kiss them. And good news, you get healthier as a result. So really, really great. And number 10, been alone with each child individually more often. That's another thing I noticed, is that often I would take my kids, you know, myself with my two boys around and gone fishing or done things. And I think that's great, and I think it's important. And certainly as a family, I think that's important too. But I also noticed that I think it's really important, and I got that from this when I read this 10 years ago when I started reading it, how important it is to actually take one of your children away and spend individual time with them, whether, like I said, it's fishing or kicking the soccer ball around or playing baseball. But each child is so unique and so different, and they need different things from you, and you can enjoy different aspects of their life or personality or perspectives as well. I'll share in closing this one real neat story. It's not a story of mine. It's actually a story that I was exposed to once, but it's about an older man who his wife had passed away, and he was actually putting together some papers for his family. And he noticed his wife had kept everything all the time. She kept all these documents. So he went upstairs to look for some documents that his wife had in the attic. And he found some journals. And actually, he forgot all about what he was looking for. And he noticed some of his business journals. So he grabbed this box and he brought it downstairs, and he started to reflect back. He's now in his 80s. He started reflecting back on the time he was a father. And he was 30-something, 40, early 40s. And he started to look back some of his business journals. He was a very successful businessman, and looking at his day-to-day. And he also noticed in his box his son had some journals. And he thought it would be neat to kind of go back and kind of reference the two journals at the same time. So he read one of his journals, and he took his son fishing one day, and he was a very busy businessman. And he read his entry into the journal. And what he wrote was that it was a very simple and point to fact. He wrote that it was a lousy day. The weather was terrible. They were late. They went fishing. They never caught a fish. He didn't get any work done. It was an entire waste of day. And then he read his son's journal on the same day. And his son wrote, went fishing with my dad. It was the best day ever. And I think we forget how important our job is, and what an influence that we have in our children's lives, and how important it is to be there for them. Because it isn't a dress rehearsal. You got one shot at being a father or a mother or anything. So I attribute, my dad's still with me, thank God. I'm going to see him later today, but this, you know, I want to attribute this to my dad, because truly the greatest influence in my life. And you know, news, my dad isn't perfect, neither are you, but they don't need perfect, because they have you in their life. So to all of you out there, a happy Father's Day. Enjoy your day with your children, enjoy your day with your family, if you're an uncle or a cousin or whatever, and have a great Father's Day. Enjoy it, spend time with your family, because you never know how long they're going to be around. Have a great week serving for those chiropractors out there that are listening, and to those patients and practice members and so forth. I hope that you have a great day just spending time with your family and friends, and I'll talk to you guys next week.